Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. My name is Farheen Khan, and you're here watching Food is Life with a real talk show, a project of Meal Exchange. And I welcome you to another week of the show. So this week, we're going to talk about food access, culture, and cuisine. And we've got a really great guest that's going to be joining us, Suzanne Barr. And so I want to take a moment to really introduce her properly because she's done such incredible work. And what I'm going to share with you is just a very brief glimpse into the incredible work she's done. So just take a moment and soak this all in. So Suzanne Barr has become one of North America's most respected chefs with a signature flair for fresh comfort food and a passion for local community food security and advocacy for people of color and LGBTQ communities. In the fall of 2019, Suzanne embarked on her latest venture as a head chef and owner at the True Diner in Toronto, Canada. This concept is a mirror of Suzanne's unique culinary repertoire and social advocacy. As published by Blog TO, the diner concept pays homage to the sites of many civil rights sit-ins and the history of the diner in breaking down segregation. Suzanne's also been heralded with championing marginalized people within workspaces through equitable employment practices. Her team members are all paid equal, livable wages and tips are pooled among not only front of the house staff, but the kitchen as well. She was the owner of the popular restaurant Saturday Dinette and the inaugural chef in residence at the Gladstone Hotel. She's received many accolades. She was also one of the chefs featured in Maya Galis's documentary film, The Heat, A Kitchen Revolution. And Suzanne has been on Food Network, which I know for sure, and will continue to be one of the esteemed judges on Food Network's new series coming up called Wall of Chefs, which is now debuted in 2020 across the country. So welcome, Suzanne.
Hi everyone. Nice to see everyone's face. Well, just to see Ranja's face. And thank you for having me. It's really, really, really great to be here and to be a part of the conversation today.
For sure. Thank you so much for being here. This is just wonderful. We're so excited to have you. It's just been, we've had a chance to engage a few times over the last couple of years. And I just have to say, each time I talk to you, it's just such a joy.
Likewise. I remember coming into a meeting and first meeting you. And I think we actually had a few exchanges over email before we met in person. And it just, this feeling of like, there's someone on the other line of this phone that I feel is a kindred spirit and someone that shares the passion in the work and the effort. And I was really, really looking forward to finally putting a face to your name. And it was a great meeting. It was, and it was over a year ago, which is crazy to think that it was that long ago that we sat at a table talking about the work that we were trying to partner up to do together.
For sure. And I mean, you've done such incredible work, I have to say. Like, I remember when I first heard about you, I remember seeing you on Top Chef and I was like, who's this incredible woman on Top Chef? She's so cool. And then next thing I knew, I was talking to you, which was pretty awesome. So here's a question for you. So, again, very conversational, but this is really important for our audience, I think. So you've been a successful chef for a long time, and, you've been an entrepreneur. Like, tell us what makes you passionate about this work.
This was not my in any way the choice to fall into cooking. I had a previous career before doing any of this work in food, and that was like my first love. That was my love of film and television. And I couldn't even imagine doing anything else but that. My mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and it almost turned my whole life upside down. I walked away from the industry. I pretty much had to, moved back home to take care of her as her caregiver. And I learned a lot about my relationship with my mom, and I learned a lot, and I didn't learn, and I was trying to figure out what I didn't know about, and that was really understanding food and the body, and trying to connect food and wellness together. in a way that would make sense, because she had been in and out of uh, uh, chemotherapy and radiation, and you know the sickness was getting worse, and then it got better, and then it got worse, and when she
Mm,
passed, it a lot of those moments of thinking, waiting in the waiting room with her, was me thinking about, like, why did we not, or how come we weren't able to, like, connect what was she wasn't getting in her diet, to be able to connect to what
mhm,
she should be eating that might help her at least get through some of the pain.
mm,
And when you get to a stage in your life where, whether it's in your 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, whenever it is, like, I feel like I hit a moment in my 30s where I just was really didn't want to go left, didn't want to go right. I needed a reset. And
mhm,
which kind of reminds me a lot of, like, what's happening right now in our life with COVID, is like taking an opportunity to reset and really rethink what is important. And I was able to do that. I took a weekend away from, at the time I was living in New York. I took a weekend away, and I was able to really, really think about, like, what did I want to do with my life? I've been working
mm,
at a company for now 2.5 years, doing well, and a lot of opportunity was about to hit me in the face full on. But I'd always loved food. Grew up cooking with my mom, seeing my dad cook, asking
yeah,
questions, playing with food with my friends in my early 20s. And here I was now wanting to be able to really connect food and health and wellness together.
mhm,
And I got back to the city, and I found a program, very small culinary school, that was offering a program that really helps you focus on whole foods, real foods, and being able to connect those together. To be able to
mhm,
work with people that are battling an ailment and illness, to understand that food can actually heal you. And I think that that is really kind of what pushes me, continuously pushes me to keep doing the work that I'm doing. Whether it's the
mhm,
physical health, wellness, the mental wellness, the emotional wellness that food can do, it's understanding the role that I'm trying to play in this, and being a conduit for it, in the preparation of meals and preparation of storytelling about how and why I got into food, and how food was a big savior for me, and how I'm hopeful that it can extend further than just my life, and to the many lives that you know also share in their passion for food. So I would say that
mhm,
it started, maybe over 14 years ago, when I really got into the industry professionally. And
mhm,
now it's kind of, taking a turn being a mom, and having to now, teach my son about food, and teaching my son about how important it is to be eating foods that are going to give him the strength and the mental wellness that, we all need in our everyday lives.
mhm. Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, I'm sure that that was a difficult time with your mom, and it's interesting how sometimes our life circumstances bring us to different places, right? Really give
Yeah.
us the chance to reflect. And it happens a few times in our lifetimes where, I can say in my own lifetime, same time, there's been moments where I've had to stop and just say, like, what is it that I'm supposed to do, right? And
Yeah.
really on a different path sometimes than what we expect or what we plan. But we take it in stride, and sometimes we end up in places that are far beyond what we had imagined, right? So
Yeah.
it
No,
feels like a full
absolutely.
cycle with your son. So that's neat to see.
Yeah. It's making that real connection to, what it means to even understand food, and what it's
Hmm.
doing for me. I grew up in a household where cooking together was somewhat natural. It was somewhat regular, but seeing my mom cook, and then being able to, either mimic that within her absence now, but just
Hmm.
really utilizing it off of conversations with my sister, and my other siblings, and my aunts and uncles, about what what was important in our
Mhm.
diet coming from the Caribbean, and what the certain foods bring up, certain food memories, and culturally how food plays such a big part of who I am, and then who the message and the stories that I'm trying to say when people come into any establishment or of an event or a catered party or something, or even in my home if you're coming in and I'm making something. It's really being able to, you know, find those moments where it's like, yeah, like I've had that before, or in my culture we eat that, it's not called that. And it's such a
Right.
great feeling when that happens.
For sure, for sure. Well, I was wondering, now that you've talked about this piece around culture and sort of the value of cultural cuisine, like how has that really, and the balance I think around like fine dining, right, and the kinds of cuisines that have sort of been a part of that historically. Can you maybe talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, last night I actually had the opportunity to watch an episode of Top Chef Canada, the latest season, and a dear friend
Mhm.
of mine, Chef Adrian Forte, is still in the running, and he's in the top five, and I'm
Oh.
so proud of him. And you know, this last week's episode had everything to do with, being black in kitchens and cultural
Mm, mhm,
representation on a plate and how important that is.
mhm,
And you know, it touched me in such a way. And I sent him a message like literally like 11 o'clock last night saying like, thank you for, being that voice. Thank you for taking the moment to talk about and share how important it is to stay to be in who you are every time
mhm,
when you're, cooking. And I think that that's one thing that I always share with all of my team, front and back of the house, is like representation is the key to understanding about connections. Like
yes,
representation on a plate really tells the story about what we're trying to share and what we're trying to understand. And making sure that you always have a bit of you on the plate. Making sure that if it's a garnish, if it's a sauce, if it's the
mm,
protein, if it's the technique, if it's something that connects you to that food in that moment in that dish, making sure that that happens. Yes, it's not always the case that you get to do that because you're might be working as a sous chef. You might be working as just a line cook. You might be working as a fry cook. Whatever your role and position is, that find a space, find a moment that when you can really make the food that is your food, and that's
mhm,
to the message that you're trying to really speak about who you are, and your attachment to food, making sure that a bit of you is on that plate. And it gives you this sense of expression. It gives you this sense of being knowing that you're an artist, and that your expression and your passion is there, and whoever is going to experience it is they're going to remember it for many many years to come. And it might be literally a one night affair. It might be your suggestion onto something that is going to be a part of a bigger whole, big picture. But just know,
mhm.
when you are thinking about them, when you are creating that dish, know that you're creating an everlasting moment where it was you connecting with food and you really putting the importance of how food has impacted your life and why you're doing this. And I think Adrian has done amazing on the show, and I'm so proud of him on the show. And seeing him and hearing him speak about his story and how his challenges is that he's gone through and still goes through is so much of the same challenges that many um, uh, POC chefs go through while working in kitchens around this city and around the world.
Mhm, mhm. Well, yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, that's why I think it's, even like if I can say this, like I'm very proud of you and all that you're doing as well, because it's, the reality is that there are a lot of added barriers, right, for people of color, in every industry, but, to being able to move through that in sort of the food, world is incredible. So thanks for all that you're doing as well. And it's exciting to hear, that I love that. I love the idea that, you always want to put yourself on the plate in some way. It's kind of neat to hear that. And I know that I'm sure that the students that are watching as well from Meal Exchange are hearing that. It's one of the things that we've been doing lately, as part of like during our this COVID pandemic, we've started to provide good food boxes to students. And so it's been interesting to see, right? Because we've also encouraged them to start to share. And so are we, this different kind of recipes and things that people are doing with good food. And so I wonder if you can tell us, from your perspective, like why it's important to invest in like local organizations and support, particularly organizations that are focused on like cultural and like ethnic groups, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually a part of a food share. I'm a huge fan. I'm a bit biased because I'm on the board, but it even the invitation and even the opportunity to be a part of the work that food share is doing with the Good Food Box is for me like my the moment where I feel like this is why I do what I do. This is why I work so hard. This is why I share my story, why I continue to work in an industry that is not so forgiving, why I continue
Mm-hmm.
to work in an industry that doesn't always see me, continue to work in an industry that doesn't always have the benefits of me mentally and physically, and then I have to work harder than the next person, behind and in front of me. Even still in my position, work as a working chef, as a chef on a TV show, as a chef that has had two restaurants, I still feel those moments where am I good enough? I still have those
Mm-hmm.
moments of uncertainty, and organizations like Food Share and organizations like Black Creek Farm, organizations around this city and many many other cities around the world that really speak the importance of you know making sure that you're eating foods that are locally sourced, foods that um, have a connection to you, foods that are supporting other like-minded families, and as well as organizations that are for the benefit of the people that look like you and I, for the benefits of the many people that look like you and I that are forgotten. The
Mm-hmm.
food share and the work that they're doing, you know, it really took me on such a moment of thinking about like what could I do? Like so
Mm-hmm.
many times chefs don't think that our impact is even seen or heard outside of maybe someone coming in and paying for our food and then leaving and maybe telling a friend and coming back. But I think that me being a part of food share in the way that I am, it's also it has helped me to understand how, in addition to being um, a fan of the work they're doing, I'm also a voice. I also have a platform. I also have a responsibility to
Mm-hmm.
to be able to educate and to show and to show people how to cook and to show them what you can do with good food,
Yeah.
local food, and what that does for not just your body but also your communities, and what that does for being able to enrich us with this
Mm-hmm.
wealth of experience and connection,
Yes.
reconnecting with the earth, reconnecting with culture, reconnecting with food, reconnecting with each other, and understanding that yes, you can go to your local grocery store and you can probably find some of your um, foods that are familiar for you from wherever country you're from, but
Mm-hmm.
to be able to support an organization that their whole intention is to make sure that that box and that food is to be able to help you thrive and to be able to shine in what you're doing and to be able to talk about how food impacts us. I mean, it's the one thing that we all globally share that we need and that we use through conversation, through passion, through impact. Food is that. And food
Mm-hmm.
can open up doors and opportunities that for so many people may have never even imagined. And for that, I so appreciate, you know, the work that they're doing and the work that I'm a part. I get a chance to be a part of because
Mm-hmm.
always every day that you get to see the impact that you're making, but to know that someone is receiving that box, someone is opening and understanding that that food is grown here and that they
Yes.
too can maybe potentially do that. And they too can have access to it. And if they don't have access to it, then let's find a way. And organizations like Food Share and the many other in the city, that's their intention is
Mhm.
to really continue to express that and show that. I mean, I'm getting my box on Saturday and I'm so excited because, I almost do like a
Yes.
little challenge for myself. Like I literally open the box and I'm like, okay, what are we making for dinner today? And then, kind of plan out the rest of the week that way. So, yeah.
That's great. Yes, yes, exactly. Well, I've been ordering the box as well, just in solidarity with the students, and it's been really great. It's fun to see the different vegetables come in, and like, oh, right, what am I going to do with this? And I love what you said about earlier around, putting yourself on the plate. I mean, I definitely do that. My family's, Indian, South Asian, and so I'm experimenting as I'm making some really neat stuff. It's fun. It's fun. It's really nice, and it's really beautiful to be able to do that. I think for my personal experience, like growing up with limited resources and being from a really large family, food was more of a necessity than it was something that was, enjoyed necessarily or really focused on as being part of like a building a family. It was really just, okay, we've got six little ones, so I need to feed, and I've got half an hour, right? So
Yeah.
it was very different. So I'm grateful that I've got that opportunity now to be able to at
Yeah.
least take some time for myself sometimes and really create something that I'd like and I enjoy,
Yeah.
and then be able to share that with other people. So I appreciate that. So, question for you, Suzanne. As these young people are getting these boxes, what advice do you have for them as they open these incredible boxes that they receive?
You know, I would say, when receiving your good food box, take the box and, wash it. Be mindful of, all of the necessary steps that you in your home, in your space that you're doing in receiving the box, you know,
Mhm.
unpacking it, washing everything, laying everything out, and really scanning and just kind of see what comes to you. What immediately comes to you that you're like, oh, I'm going to use that to make this. You know,
Mhm.
almost do a little bit of a plan for a later date for the rest of the week because you don't want to let that food just sit in the fridge and like not get used. And I think for a lot of you students, I think that being able to just be quick and being quick about foods that are not going to take you 2 hours to make, but foods that are you can either use a good collection of what you have, but also
Mhm.
maybe isolate certain foods and make one particular product using one thing. What I've been finding myself to do a lot when I get the boxes, I'm always thinking about I want to make a soup. I want to make like a mixture of all of the veggies, like a stir fry of some sort.
Mhm.
And then maybe even the possibility, do I want to maybe, is there anything here that I can turn into like, can I turn into a smoothie? Can I turn it into
Oh,
puree? Can I combine it with maybe some of my pantry items? Like, can I make a hummus? Can I make something, thinking about those things that you like to readily eat, that you want to be able to get quick and have access to, thinking about those and thinking about how you can be super efficient about you're planning out. I mean, as chefs, when we're planning our menus and when we're looking at like, okay, it's fall season or it's summer season, we want to create some specials. We do menu planning, and that's a big part of the workflow in preparation, getting ready before we actually create the menu. Is we think about, well, what do we need on the menu? What do we want to, showcase? And being that we're all stepping into the most beautiful time seasonally in Ontario, in this province, for
mhm.
really getting robust, beautiful vegetables and fruits, is like what can we highlight? And being able to highlight certain ingredients because you know that they're either their shelf life is so short and you may not get it in the next box. Just thinking about that.
Mhm.
But thinking about like, like, do you like soup? Do you like a stew? Even though it's summertime, even though it's getting warm outside, it doesn't mean that you can't have a summer stew, like a lighter stew that maybe has less of a broth and maybe more of a it feels a little bit more thick, and really putting like thinking about your compounds and building in flavor and building in your dishes. I think those are some things that I would suggest that might be really helpful, and sharing and thinking about how you can create a dish that you can invite in an open space safely with other friends and family and other people that are within your life or your community. How can you share and offer some of what you've received to the rest of them? So, thinking about, planning out is a big part of it, and having fun, putting some music on, and really getting into it.
Yes. Yes, that's great. Thank you. That's helpful. I think, well, even for me, it's helpful. That's great. It's important to plan, right? It's important to
Yeah,
plan. It's important
yeah,
to really think through, and I love the fact that there's this piece around like the stir fry or the stew and the soup and the different kind of categories of food, if you will, right? And being able to kind
yeah,
of think from that perspective in the box. That's great. I love that.
yeah.
So, question for you then, Suzanne. What advice do you give to students? We know that even pre-COVID, 40% of students were dealing with food insecurity, and we know that that's increased, right, significantly, even at this time. And a lot of the students that I should say a large majority of the students that we're supporting are students that are dealing with that are also international students who have limited access to resources and family and support. So, the Good Food Box program is something that we're doing, and we're hoping we can continue to make it a sustainable option. But, even in situations where those students are in places where they don't have access to a box, across the country, or where, we're post this program potentially, or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
generally speaking, what advice do you have for students who are dealing with food insecurity? What are the things that they can think about or do to still access good food in some way?
Yeah. I want to start off by saying, please know that you're not alone, and please know that this potentially could be um, something that's quite temporary, and that with I think a lot of work that's happening through many, many organizations and advocates around the province and also around the country. I think that this conversation is not a singular conversation. This is not a conversation that's just, maybe happening within certain communities and not extending out. And I think that policy is a part of some of the work that we need to be able to look at. And I think that organizations are seeing that and know that that's important. And I think that knowing that your stories are not singular stories, and that there's communities and there are villages, there are tribes, there are many people that share in what you're going through. And please don't feel that your voice needs to be silenced. And please know that myself and the many other food advocates and incredible individuals like Fahim that are doing initiatives like this to be able to highlight your stories and to be able to put this in the forefront of conversation and to not overlook this, and not just to think that food insecure is just something that happens based off of your financial, or based off of where you live, or based off of your skin color, or based off of lack thereof opportunity. There's so many factors that play into why anyone like yourself or anyone in any community might be battling food insecurity. And I think that, the one thing that I remember when I was living in the US, and um, in my first few years of trying to, not even realizing that I was even heading on the path of advocacy, what I was, attempted to do within my community is I tried to get access to land, try to get access to community gardens, trying to connect with gardens that were within a block radius that from my apartment. And I did a bit of like just walking in my neighborhood to see what was going on. And I went to grocery stores and I saw what was missing, and I saw what was sitting there, what was looking beautiful and what wasn't looking beautiful, and trying to do a little bit of work that I didn't even realize what I was doing. And out of that, I connected with the YWCA or the YMCA in my neighborhood, and what I started to doing is because I knew I had these skills, not a gift, just these skills that I had learned from going to culinary school. I wanted to not just share that. I wanted to share that. I wanted to offer up, free workshop classes, but I needed a space. And the space that I got actually access to was a free space in the YWCA. The majority of members that were going to the Y were from within my community. And at that time I was living in Bed-Stuy. And what was a great access was anyone that was coming in, going to the gym or going to use the facilities, the workshops, the classrooms upstairs, they came in for a free class with me. What I then did was the same community gardens as well as the grocery store that I saw within my neighborhood. I asked them, created a letter and I said, listen, this is something that I'm doing. Um, I know that you have produce, you have product that you can't necessarily sell, you can't get rid of. I would love to take it off your hands and I'd love to offer it to free workshop classes that are being held at the Y, which is literally 5 blocks from your grocery store. That is a way for me to be able to talk about my relationship with you guys as a local grocery store, and also to talk about the work that I'm trying to offer for free of charge, and to be able to educate and train and share a bit of what I have, to give. I say all of that to say that I'm not suggesting that you overextend yourself more than already what you're doing, because I know for a lot of students, for a lot of you guys, it's just trying to get through the day to day. But what I will say is that being able to understand and to be able to maybe get access to a few communities within your own community, and being able to see if you can be a part of a community garden, seeing if you can see if there's any community gardens close by or not too far, whether it's by bus or by train or by foot or by bike, however you're transporting, however you're getting around, seeing if you can actually become a member, a volunteer, being able to, offer up an exchange of your gifts, your skills, your talents, in exchange with someone that may be able to give you some education on how to farm, how to learn about how to grow food, how to be able to access, those that opportunity for me is such a big part of understanding about how food plays such a big part. That's one way, and I think the other, another way to be able to, as you're moving through, the rest of the summer and trying to navigate through this this epidemic as we navigate out and into something new, is think about your impact. Think about what type of impact that you want to make. Think about what you have to offer, and think about what you think is going to be the most beneficial part of all of this for you coming out of this. Whether that's taking your time for yourself, whether that's sharing what you feel are some of your gifts and your talents and your skill sets, to be able to build on community, being able to be a part of more conversations and talks, to being able to read more, being able to get yourself the most informed so that you know that you can stand and you can speak about your personal experience within this conversation, and that you have a voice that wants to be heard, and that you can impact in such a way that will surpass anything that sometimes you can even imagine. Because I didn't realize the impact that my little program did for that community. But week to week, day to day, month to month, I would get little notes. I would have people leaving me messages. When are you doing the next class? I missed last week. I'd love to be a part of it. And I didn't have a goal to try to gain money, or to gain anything. I just wanted to share a bit of what I had, a bit of my passion. And I think, to kind of sum it all up, it's about understanding that your passion could really drive you in such a way that takes you to places that you never could imagine. Because I never had planned to be an advocate, or I never planned to see how far this could take me, but it took me to places, and it showed me and allowed me to be able to share what I thought was just a story, and what I thought was just like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. But what that did for so many people, it opened up an opportunity for them to not feel alone, and to not feel like they couldn't share, and that they didn't deserve what they felt was eating well and eating good. So
Mhm.
that's a long-winded answer, but I feel like it really is such a powerful, powerful question, and I really, really appreciate that question.
Mhm. Of course, and thank you for all that you've said and all that you've done. That's incredible. So we've only got a few minutes left. Do you have any last minute thoughts or advice before we wrap up?
I just, I want to leave everybody with just this feeling of, connections can can really humble you in the time when you feel the most vulnerable and at risk. And vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. Vulnerability is a sign of your growth, and you willing to be able to expand. And expansion is such a way to be able to open yourself up to the possibilities, and the possibility of whatever is next for you, and whatever it is that you need and want in your life. It's right there in front of you, and sometimes it's not always so clear to see it, and it's not always there so easy to get access to it. But knowing that you're not alone, and that when you close your eyes, and when you walk the walk, and when you do all the things that you're doing, know that there's always someone that's right next to you, that is rooting for you, and that is standing behind you. And please, if ever you would like to talk to me, or share a bit of your story, or just ask me a question, please extend out on any of my social connections, and I would love to be able to reconnect and stay connected, and to offer up anything that I have to give.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for
Mhm.
all of that. And we'll make sure we post out your social media handles so people know how to get in touch with you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you're doing and all you continue to do. And hopefully, we'll get a chance to see you on the show again.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I saw, a dear friend, Joshna Maharaj, who I absolutely adore and I admire and respect so humbly. She sent a great message when knowing that I was being a part of this, and I just thank everyone for that, who's going to be watching it with us live, and those that are going to watch it later. Like, just keep educating, keep listening from a space, and making space for yourself and people around you, because you really, 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 we really have an opportunity right now to make such an impact in a new future, and in the work that we want to be doing. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks again. Okay,
Thank
take care.
you so much.
No worries. Okay, everyone. So that was what a great conversation that we had with Suzanne. Thanks again for watching this week. We'll make sure we put down the social media handles for Suzanne so you can reach out to her. Also, if anybody's interested in knowing more about what we're doing with our Good Food Box program, which we're calling Good Food Now, and we're doing across the country through Meal Exchange, please go to goodfoodnow.ca. Our boxes are mainly running until June 30th, but as we know, in this time, we definitely need more support. We want to be able to support more students. We've already distributed about 2,000 boxes across Canada and have supported over 1,200 students. But of course, the need that's just scratching the surface. So if there's anything you can do to support us, please go to the website and do that. That would be greatly appreciated. So that's it for today. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, take care.